Hello, podcasters, and welcome once again to Sexplosion. Now, today, Hippie and I are going to be chatting about conditioning, sex and conditioning, which follows on from my last chat on swinging. Now, if you're new to Sexplosion, my name is Caroline Chenier from CarolineChenierCoaching.com, and we talk about everything to do with sex and intimacy in my podcast. So, Hippie, a sexy welcome back to Sexplosion. Can you please give a little bit of information about you and how this episode about conditioning links it to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, conditioning, that affects everyone. We're all conditioned, whether we like it or not. Sex and conditioning for me started really early, and not in a healthy way. I was actually brought up in a really strict right-wing commune, really, and sex was very much a taboo. Sex is very much for two married people. It's never to be spoken about, never to be experienced. So there was for me, there was a lot of negative input in there.
You
And
weren't allowed to touch yourself either. You're forbidden for doing that
no,
too, weren't you?
it was quite extreme. As a 13-year-old, having your mother screaming top of her lungs in your face that if you were to touch yourself or have fantasies, that weren't just going to bring demons into your own life and condemn yourself to hell. You were inviting demons into the home, which would attack everyone in the home, which works on many levels of how to screw someone up, really. And yeah, I obviously that was sort of a very conditioned, very punished state to be in as a child. And it was really damaging and toxic. And if anyone is out there believing that nonsense, it's lies. And as I got older and more, I always broke that rule. I couldn't help it. You know what I mean? I was a 13, 14-year-old child, you know what I mean? And I kind of, it gets to the point where you're like, well, if I'm going to hell, I'm going to enjoy going there. As I got older, and started to break free from the condition and started to realize that what I'd been programmed with was not just wrong, but extremely wrong. I rewrote all of these parts of my mind, and to get there was a bit of a journey, and I had to ask myself, what do I like? And it was a lot of self-discovery and a lot of being honest with myself, and it was what turns me on, what am I into, and do I have, I'm straight, but then at one point I was like, am I straight because I've been told that homosexuality is bad and I'm going to burn in hell for it? And my method was basic, to be honest, and I'd basically sit and play with myself, and I'd throw these thoughts in my head and see if it worked or not. And if it worked and it stuck, then I went with it. And if it didn't, then I was like, well, that's not the one for me. That's not something I'm into. And that was quite a basic way of breaking through into what do I like. But it's only as I've got older I've realised that everyone's conditioned. And it's not necessarily by religion or the nonsense that goes with that. It's by what's around us, what we see, what we hear, and especially in our teens. Our bodies are becoming responsive, our minds are becoming, inquiring, but we don't know what's right and wrong because sex isn't taught. Sex education in school is biology, but it doesn't teach anything about the subject of sex.
Or emotions or anything that goes with it like that.
Well, this is it. And this is all the subject that should be taught, to young people who've got inquisitive minds. And I remember seeing groups of kids in school, and sex would be discussed between the kids. I mean, none of them have got any real knowledge, and like one would say something and there'd be a group of kids, and it would be whatever the first reaction was, all the other kids would join in on it. So I remember clearly these girls talking one day, and one of them mentioned masturbating, and the whole group went quiet. And eventually one of them went, ew, and then the whole group joined in, ew, to that reaction because no one knew what reaction to give. So from that point on, looking back, all of those people have got built in, it's ew, I shouldn't, there's something bad about this.
But they've probably been told that they're gonna go blind or something like that.
Yeah. And like, even I've got a friend, he was in his late 30s, and we were chatting, and we were chatting about. I'm quite open about masturbation. I think it's great. No one does it as good as me, you know. I mean, it's nice when someone else does it, but I'm the best. And I was chatting one day, and he was like, "Yeah, but you can't do it too often, can you? It's bad for you." And I was like, "Where did you learn that?" And he goes, "Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know." And it was back in school. Someone had said that
What?
it was bad for you to do it
No.
too often, right? And we carry these conditions because that's conditioning. When we hear something and we take it in, that's conditioning, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. And like a lot of people are conditioned with pornography, and they're conditioned to think that's how it should be.
Oh my
Um,
God.
and we're conditioned by everything around us, you know. And the fact that sex is such a taboo subject conditions people into resigning themselves into a position of thinking that there's something wrong with it. I mean, if people sit with me and chat with me, I'll talk about what my likes and dislikes are in sex, like I would with food. You know, I don't like olives. Is easy for me to say is, you know, don't really like things up my bum that much. You know, it's never worked for me.
Mm.
Um, and but it's not, you know, it's not something that we are discussing, and we should. And it's a conditioned state because it's been taboo. And I'm going to bring it back to religion. And a lot of people might disagree, but we are living, even if you've had 2, 3 generations of atheist family, society's rules have been set for about 1500 years by the Judaic, you know, the Abrahamic God faiths, and it's had an effect on society that's running through. You go back to, say, the times of Jesus, prior to the Abrahamic faith religions becoming Christianity, Islam, whatever. It's, you know, it's well written about that. The Romans had orgies,
I
the
did.
Greeks had orgies. The sex was a much bigger part of life
Was
before the
and same sex as
over.
well. Same
Yeah,
sex as well was normal.
yeah, it was completely acceptable. There was some in some regions there was different restrictions on who could have sex with who because it was seen as a hierarchy, and the man was being dominant in his position. But a man could have sex with a man. He could have sex to a man, then, if you like, of someone of a lower social status, regardless of gender. So but yeah, there's been a lot of conditioning over a long time, and that the Western world, as much as we like to think we're forward thinking, we really aren't. We're very repressed in this area,
What made
and
it go backwards like that? What made it go backwards? Because they were very, very open about it all. There is even little brothels. If you go to Pompeii, you'll see these little doors which would have had curtains, and quite recognizably, they're like concrete beds
yeah,
on the side. So it was
yeah,
very, very open. So what do you think happened?
religion.
But there was a religion already, the Catholic religion at that time.
I think I can't give dates, but I mean I've read quite a lot about religion, obviously, and trying to learn my way out of the religious dogma and thinking and control and whatever. And I can't remember the dates on a lot of the things that I've read, but there's been different times where the different bits of text have been used to repress.
Uh,
And one of the areas that came through with religion was sexual desire. And if you can turn that into a weakness, everyone becomes a sinner. They're oppressed. You've got more control. Um,
all
these are
about
my
control. Yeah.
yeah. You know, this is what I've learned through reading. Basically, I've had to study myself out of conditioning and get understanding. Education is the
But
key
it's
to all.
amazing how you recognize that whatever it was your parents and your environment were telling you must be wrong, and that you then set about educating yourself. There are many, many people who aren't as lucky as you that haven't woken up and smelt the coffee and realized that the reason why they have these issues with sex is because they've been conditioned. I mean, I was conditioned. I was conditioned to think that it was a bad thing. It was only for naughty girls, like dirty girls. I was a
Yeah,
tart
yeah,
if I
yeah,
enjoyed it. And what's
yeah,
really interesting is that when I went to Jordan, I think it was to Jordan, I went with my brother a long, long time ago before I did any of this work. And we met up with the Bedouins, and they invited us into their home. And I had a question. My brother said, "Oh my God, she wants to ask a question." And they said, "No, no, no. Please," he said, "you don't know what kind of question she's going to ask her," because he knew it was going to be a sexual question. He was quite embarrassed about my questions. And I said, is your wife allowed to enjoy sex? And he said, actually, it wasn't the Bedouins, it was a Jordanian. He said, yeah, they are. They are allowed to enjoy it. I went, okay. So what about, and I'd asked questions like, so how do they find a partner then? Because obviously if they can't meet up and be, meet each other like on a night out or something like that, how to do it? Well, the sisters and the mothers go and do it. I said, so what? So the sisters and the mother go and pick out the man, and the brothers and the fathers go and pick out the woman. I think it's the women that pick out the woman. And what if they don't fancy each other? Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. I said, wow. And
Yeah.
so that I just found the whole thing really, really interesting. And that was kind of like the beginning of my journey. But you see, when I realized I was conditioned was when I decided I'd let go, when I was in my sexual peak. And I just went crazy. I was going out with everybody. I'd even have a man for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, different one, of course. And
Love it.
and it was just, I was on this sex train going 100 miles an hour. I just didn't know how to get off it. And it was one day I was with my favorite FB, and I was all dressed up in my FMB boots. I had my fishnet tights, FMB fuck me boots, my fishnet tights. I had my basque on. I had a feather boa. My hair was all over the place. I'd put makeup on like a tart. And I decided, I thought, hang on a minute, I'm just going to let go. I was in my favorite position at the time, doggy, and I just let go. And the moment I let go, I gave myself permission to enjoy it. And that's when all the fireworks went off. This explosion here behind me is how it felt. This was designed from my memory of letting go. So that was my conditioning out the window after that. But it does creep back sometimes, It does
Yeah,
creep
yeah, yeah.
back.
I mean, conditioning does. I mean, primary conditioning is when we're kids, and if our parents rarely openly speak about sex. It's that, oh no, we can't discuss that, and there's
No,
an awkwardness about it. My kids, I'm quite open.
it's
You know what I
good.
mean? So because I want my kids to grow up healthy and enjoying life. So I teach them safety first. And enjoy yourselves. Just be safe, be careful.
And it's lucky you're
Um,
telling them that now in their early 20s, because they're very lucky they've got you to tell you that.
yeah,
I
well,
didn't
look,
have that.
I wish I'd had that
Me
rather than
too. I wish I'd had
it's
it
all
too.
evil, you're going to burn in hell.
It's unbelievable what you were told, and how you've come out of it is incredible. Can you now, for the people who realize perhaps they have been conditioned, which we all have, but they're now thinking, oh, after what you said, maybe they're thinking they're a bit conditioned. What would you say in your experience? Because I've just said how I let go of that. In your experience, what would you say about getting rid of that conditioning?
I think like I've said many times before, it comes down to being honest with yourself, and whatever goes through your mind that you enjoy, you know, look at it. And there's people have so many different fantasies and so many different ideas, whether it's being outside or group sex, or yeah, I mean, we could sit here all day listing off the different ideas that people have, and look at it and say, you know that's what I like. Can I have that without it causing harm, either to myself or to others?
It's a shame, actually. Yeah, that, and asking those questions is really good. So it's really, I think, probably what you're also saying is be in the present. Forget about the past. Forget about any
yeah,
future. What do you think? What do you feel right now in this moment?
yeah,
And
and
that
and
is
then
what's important.
yeah, and not to be afraid of it, and realize that there is no um as long as it's causing no harm to anyone and it's all
Right.
consensual,
Yeah.
and that's really important. As long as it's consensual, then it's fine. You can go with it. There is nothing wrong. There are no real taboos. Everything you can think of has already been done.
Yeah, exactly.
By many people. You're not going to come up with anything new at this point.
Thousands and thousands that even the prehistoric cavemen probably did the same. There's
Yeah,
one thing that really sticks out in my mind from the past where I was in my sexual peak and I wanted to do everything. What was really good is once I let go, it's like, okay, this is a whole area I've got to discover. And I did everything. I did everything so I'd have an opinion on it. But one thing that many men refused to allow was anything near the back end. And for them, it's because they thought, I'm not gay. And it's like, wow, do you really think that that is something that only affects gay people? You have a G spot up there. In fact, there was one.
no, believe me, I've tried to find it, but I actually get quite a bit of discomfort. I'm not able to relax enough to enjoy it.
Uh,
And like I say, I'm completely straight,
but
but
that's not
I'm
But that's not because you've been conditioned. That's because you generally
yeah,
have a yeah. See,
yeah,
and so there was one man, one client of mine who'd been abused as a child. It was awful actually, and he was 10 years old, and it went through for a few years by a priest as well, and his auntie. But what he was saying was that he says the thing is, I feel so guilty and shame because I actually enjoyed the back end. He said, and I've never told anybody that. And I said, the thing is that you enjoyed the back end for a reason. He said, did I? Yeah, because your G spot's there. He said,
yeah,
I said, that's the only place God could put it. It's there. And that's
yeah.
why you enjoyed it. He goes, oh my God, really? And suddenly it was like a whole weight had been lifted off his shoulders because he realized it's okay to enjoy it. Yes, okay, the man who did it was breaking the law, but the fact is that actual act of putting it in there you enjoyed, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it was
Yeah.
like it was incredible for him.
If we're enjoying anything on our bodies, there's nothing wrong with it.
No, of course
You
not. And
know,
why should it be? Why should there be anything wrong with it? Why?
yeah,
Because people had decided somewhere along the line that we're going to control people, which is what you're saying, control people
yeah.
by saying that. Wow. And it's
And
just
if
gone
you
through
take
the
people's
decades, through
base,
the years.
yeah, and if you take people's base instincts and tell them it's wrong and that they have to listen to you for guidance to get past that, you've got control of those people because we're designed to breed, we're designed to um, continue the species. So it is a base natural instinct to want sex,
Exactly.
and we have intellect, which drives different desires for different types of sex, for different types of physical sensation, and for mental stimulation. Um, so yeah, you make people feel guilty for that. You've got good control of them, and we shouldn't be controlled in that. Well, unless you enjoy that. Um,
Well, yes. Yeah.
which,
It's submissive. But the thing I
no,
wanted to also say is that you see, when we are born on this planet, we're immediately put into a little pigeonhole called monogamy. And we all think we should all shovel ourselves in. And sometimes it's a square peg in a round hole. And we try so hard to fit into that mold. But when most people on this planet are just not like that. And that's why they find it so hard. They're stuck in, when I say stuck in a marriage, they're probably very happy, loving their wife, loving their family, their lifestyle, the children, the whole everything about it, except they're not getting their basic need, which could be just playing with toys, not being vanilla. It could be trying out something with a third person. It could be actually going to a club. It could be anything. It could be just,
it could even be enjoying yourself alone. And that's the one
yes,
that shocks me, is how many people are still thinking, oh, we shouldn't do that on any level.
so wrong.
Everyone should do it. If you don't know your own body, how can you expect anyone else to, give you the pleasure that you deserve?
No, and look at
You
this.
have to know your own body first.
Got mine handy right here. Mine's here whenever I want it. It's right there. This is a funny
Yeah,
shape one, all right? This is one like that. And I
yeah.
can't, someone might ban me or something if I say, because I've been banned that many times. This right there, there's nothing wrong with it there.
The idea that self-pleasure is somehow wrong is a clear conditioned state, is completely natural. Left to our own devices, we would touch ourselves and we would enjoy those bits. All that stops people is conditioning. It's thoughts put in there by other people, which is what conditioning is. And yeah, breaking free of that. If that's where people are, break free of it. Enjoy yourself. You're allowed to. If you need permission, I'll give it. Because it's natural, it's healthy, it's good for us. You know, yeah. And I will argue day and night with anyone who says that it's wrong.
I would too, definitely. I would
Day
as
and
well.
night.
And in fact, you just need to look at primates. I mean, I've just been out in Thailand and worked with elephants, but there were 900 animals, and most of those other ones were monkeys. You just have to look at monkeys. They do whatever they want, and they're having a nice time in front of
Yeah,
everybody. And that
yeah,
is unconditioned. Are they
yeah,
unconditioned
yeah.
beings on this
No
planet?
shame, just living in the moment, as
In
we should
fact,
be.
one little one came over to me. It's called a spider monkey, so he's very, very tiny. And he came over and he was all erect. He literally was like that to me. And there's a little bit that came out the end as well. And I was like, oh
Yeah,
my goodness. Obviously recognizing a female or something. I don't know whether he feels the energy of a female. I don't know, but that
yeah,
was
could be
very
sent anything.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, he was
No,
so
I mean,
cute.
at the end of the day, I mean, this is the other thing I find shocking how many people in 2024 don't believe, which is weird, or understand that we are great apes. We are animals. You know, we're living a very, very unnatural life, but we're animals. And
We are.
I've actually had people, even recently, arguing that we're not animals, that we're greater than anything in the animal kingdom, so therefore we are distinct and separate. We're great apes, and you know we're not. Yeah, I can't even get
Do you
into that.
know
What it
what? I
is?
was just
What
listening to something the other day. Ricky Gervais was
yeah,
saying that if we were all from apes, why do we still have apes? And he answers that one by saying there are different species of apes, aren't there? And we are
yeah,
just a different species that
just
evolved.
one species. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's but again, I've got to be honest. It's mostly Christians that are coming to me and saying that we're not animals.
Mm.
And mostly American Christians. I'm not going to try and, I'm not saying it's all or generalizing in that way, but that is mostly where that conversation comes from. And I can't quite fathom what that's about. Really can't. You know, because no matter which deity they believe made us, we're made as animals. We're not plants. We're not rocks. We're not a gas. We're animals. You know, yeah, it baffles me
No, we
that one.
are. We are. And
but but,
and we are.
animals express sexually freely. You know, um, yeah. So I'm constantly baffled by that. But if we take ourselves back to a basic level, we're meant to live in nature, in a natural, safe environment, and we're not doing. We're living outside of a natural environment,
In
so we should
concrete.
grab onto our natural way of being as much as possible. And
Definitely.
sexual expression is definitely an area that we can have freedom, we can enjoy. You know, um, yeah,
Absolutely
yeah,
fascinating. Well, listen, time's up as usual. It's like already like so listen, one thing I would like to ask you
yeah.
is so there are a lot of people that are thinking, right, perhaps I need to sort this out. So should we give them a step forward on what they should do next? Okay, what should they do next if they think I know they're going to be conditioned. It's the ones that want to wake up and smell the coffee. What should they do?
Spend time alone, being honest with yourself. Um, Look at what gives you a twitch, what gives you feelings when you think about subjects, and what doesn't.
Mm,
And if it doesn't, ask why, because you might find a way through the conditioning to freedom in that thought, to enjoying that idea. So everything where you're like, oh no, I couldn't possibly, ask
just do
why.
it. Mm.
Yeah, and be really honest, and look for where did that idea that is wrong come in. You know,
And give
so
yourself permission. Give
yeah,
yourself permission.
yeah, 100%.
Excellent.
And if religion's what's holding you back, don't let it, because that was written by men, not any particular deity.
It's true. It's true. So listen, I want you to let us know what your TikTok handle is, so people can come and find you if they want to, and maybe directly ask you a question themselves?
Trying to remember. Oh,
Oh,
at
I
Steve
can tell you. It's
Hippie.
at Steve Hippie. There you go. It's
Yeah,
at Steve Hippie. So if any of
yeah.
you out there would like to ask Steve a question yourself, like perhaps you have had the same upbringing as him, maybe there are things he said that's you've recognized, and as Steve has got himself out of it, he can probably help you. So go over to TikTok and type in at Steve Hippie.